Please meet Alan Payne and Cyril Maddox. And I believe you've been good friends for a number of years, both before your wives passed away and since then, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Now, Alan, you're the senior one of the two, and how old are you?
92 years.
92. But Cyril, of all the members of St Mary's Church, I think, anyhow, your 90th birthday is nearest and closest to the Queen's, because you become 90 in...
August the 13th.
Now, that's not many weeks away, is it,
No,
really? So
no.
you're almost the same age as Her Majesty the Queen.
That's right.
Now, Cyril, I'm going to ask you to think back to your boyhood days, and like me, you left school quite early, didn't you?
Yes, unfortunately.
14?
I left school at 14.
14, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, you went straight out to work, as I did.
Yes, I went straight out to work. My first job, of course, I was born in 26, so the war was coming, and my first job was in a factory which built shells.
Shells?
Yeah, and I was trained to operate a lathe to turn the noses of shells,
Oh, I say.
which I didn't particularly like, and after a little while I changed jobs and went across town to a aeroplane factory that built aeroplanes, parts of aeroplanes. And I like to think that the parts of aeroplanes we built, one of them might have been the one that flew into Germany in due course.
So you did a good job.
I hope so. Mind you, the ladies, it was a factory which employed about 2,000 ladies, and men were in short supply there, so you had rather a nice time.
Now, you were eventually employed by BP.
Yes.
Isn't that right? And I'm going to come back to that.
Yeah.
Now, Alan, you joined the RAF, didn't you?
I did indeed.
Well, I
yes.
served in the RAF as well, actually.
Yes.
But the nearest I came to a plane was at Holton when I came back on leave. Did you fly in the RAF?
Oh yes, I did fly. Yes, I
What
trained
was
as
your
an
position?
observer. I trained as an observer in South Africa. The first 2 years of the war, I was at school. And by the time I was 18 years old, I was eligible to volunteer and fly in the Royal Air Force, which I did. And I did my basic training in South Africa with the South African Air Force.
And what did you train for to become?
Well, a navigator or bomb aimer.
Gosh.
In South Africa, they did the observer course,
Yeah.
which embraced navigation, bomb aiming, and air gunnery.
Goodness me.
So we were skilled in all those arts, if you call it arts, you see.
Amazing. Now, you did tell me that you really felt quite safe in a way when you were flying. You couldn't explain
I
it
always
very well.
wanted to fly, you know, and I volunteered for the RAF because I did not want to be called up for the Army or the Air Force. I was always keen on aircraft. As a boy, I was making model aircraft. And so, I mean, that's what I wanted to do. So I volunteered for aircrew, you see. And I was called up at 18 years old.
Gosh. But you said you felt sort of feeling of safety, didn't you?
I did somehow, yes, I did somehow. I always felt confident.
That's amazing, because a lot of people are really frightened of
Oh no,
flying, aren't they?
which is funny thing, I feel more frightened now when I don't know what's going on than when I did when I was in the cockpit, when I knew what was going on.
And you're in planes that weren't built by Cyril.
Yes.
Partly.
That's right. Now, back to you, Cyril. I'm coming on to your time when you were not just a junior engineer with BP, but you progressed, and you were involved in quite a big project in the Isle of Grain.
Yeah.
At the building of...
Yes, well, it's not very often do you sort of demolish what you built in industry, really. And I helped to build the refinery on the Isle of Grain in Kent in 1952 and onwards. Never stopped building. It built and built and built until in 1980 they decided they were in a position to do without it. There was the world was awash in petroleum products, and they had to go. And then the problem was, what do we do with it?
Sure.
And there was lots of chats and talks and interviews and so forth. And I was invited to a board meeting and asked if I would like to undertake the project manager, to become the project manager of that demolition of the refinery, which was the first one in BP to be demolished, and probably the first one in England to be demolished. Quite a challenge.
And you oversaw the whole lot of it?
I was there, and I was asked to give an estimate of cost for the project and a time scale. And over a weekend, I called in a colleague of mine to help. We sat in my lounge at home in Kent, because I was living in Kent then, and we put together a package which we offered to the board in 1980, now we're talking about, and it was £19 million to demolish it, and it would take 5 years.
My.
And they took a week to think about it, and came back and said, yes, okay, you've got the job, off you go. And really, it was an amazing situation, because I've told Alan many times that I never saw anyone then. BP just disappeared out of my life. I worked down there with this 5-year time scale, which they challenged initially because they wanted it done quicker, which meant that you wanted more people to do it. And we had the problem that to get to a position of demolition, we had to put everybody on redundancy, and then I had to sort of create a management structure for the demolition project.
Huge responsibility.
Yeah. Well, indeed, it's a one-off, a real challenge, but most enjoyable. But the sad thing about it, really, you spend many years of your life building a thing, and it was like children on a beach on a sand, making a castle and then jumping on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was sort of like that.
Now, both of you have been involved in St Mary's, and I think you've used your gifts and your training to do one or two things. The big thing was I think the Christian Centre.
Christian Centre.
That's over here.
And the rigging platform, the mezzanine floor in this tower.
Did you?
That was
and you were involved in the diocese as well, weren't you?
Well, after the war, I think I trained as an architect, and I became an architect in the Wendover Deanery. And Wendover was one of my churches.
I see.
And as such, I was responsible for the upkeep at the time, and the social centre and the ringing platform. They were the two main jobs that I did at the time.
Yeah. Now, Cyril, you've been involved in the Friends, and just tell us a couple of things that you've done. You've been an assistant church warden.
Yes, I've done that. Well, I tried to get into the choir, unsuccessfully, for obvious reasons.
But you trained me really, because I became an assistant warden, and I looked to you for advice and so on before I became a church warden there as well.
It was very good. I was also a founder member of the Friends of St Mary's, with Gordon Adam as chairman.
Yes,
and it's still going today.
Yes.
And doing a really good job.
That's right.
And in the time of Andrew Maynell, so during my period here, we've had several vicars, of course.
Yes,
Andrew Maynell, of course, came along to ask me to a meeting at his home. I went along, and there was Jill Andrews and Valerie Bretherton.
Yes.
And he asked us if we felt able to create a flower festival.
Yeah.
And we did. With lots of other people. We were the prime movers, along with Frank Bretherton, who was in the print and did all the correspondence and programme work and that sort of thing. It was very generous, really, of him.
Well, I feel it all started really by both of you going to Sunday school, isn't
Well,
that right?
yeah.
Where did you go to Sunday school? In what area?
I went to Sunday school in the mining village that I lived in. In my first, as I left school, you see, my father was in the mining industry in Warwickshire, in Cumberland, and in Yorkshire.
But that's where you went to Sunday school.
And that's where I was born. I went to Sunday school in Yorkshire.
How about where did you go to Sunday school, Alan?
In Wendover here.
In this church?
In this church in Wendover, yes.
That's lovely. I
So
think that's absolutely great.
I didn't do the other travelling that Cyril had to do. But I always remember Sunday afternoons were Sunday school days, and that was sacrosanct. We dressed up and came to church on Sunday afternoon to Sunday school.
And that's where it all started.
That's where it started, yes.
And those of you who are viewing, what an encouragement to you if you're a Sunday school teacher or a teacher of young people. I think that's a lovely story. And I'd like to thank you, Alan, very much, and to you, Cyril, as well. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.